Welcome back, everyone. Syracuse University is honoring former radical left-wing figures like Cuban Marxist revolutionary Che Guevara and black nationalist Malcolm X with a mural depicting them alongside figures like Mother Teresa and Martin Luther King Jr. The university is showcasing these two individuals in spite of the fact that Guevara was a mass murderer and Malcolm X allegedly met with the KKK to suggest the anti-Semitic idea that Jews were behind the integration movement that the Klan opposed. The mural is located in the Goldstein Student Center on the school's South Campus, which is a really highly trafficked area, and it's a residential area. Campus Reform Correspondent Emily Sturge joins me now with more details about this and the uproar that is causing. Emily, good to see you.
Great to see you, Terrence. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, thank you for being here. So why don't you lay out some of the concerns that you're hearing about this mural?
Well, this story is unfortunately just another example of higher education idealizing leftist ideologies. By glorifying figures like Che Guevara and other violent radicals as role models for students, Syracuse University is indoctrinating their students into idealizing Marxism. And when this is happening on campus, it's no wonder that 30% of my generation, Gen Z, it has a favorable view on Marxism, and when they're graduating college, they're voting for these leftist policies. They want to see far-left policies from candidates like AOC and Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, and it's no wonder when they're being taught these far-left ideas in the classroom that that's what they're voting for when they graduate.
So, Emily, I'm curious, are you really concerned that this sort of mural has actually been put up, particularly when students are running around college campuses with Che Guevara t-shirts on? It's probably one of the hotter selling items, if we're honest.
Well, absolutely. It's concerning because when you're looking at the facts, communism has killed more than 100 million people in the last century. And this display is ignoring that. This display is ignoring the reality that Che Guevara was a mass murderer and instead comparing him to positive figures like Mother Teresa and Gandhi. But communist figures, they don't need to be celebrated in university spaces, and they don't need to be leaving students with this positive impression of them. Displaying memorials for violent communists on campus openly shows how university administrations are pushing left-wing and Marxist ideologies on their students.
But Emily, isn't this basically the same idea or the same argument that liberals are making when they try to take down statues of Confederate generals and that kind of thing? Oh, we shouldn't glorify these people?
Well, the university administrations, they're not taking into account the pro-freedom voices. They're not taking into account that some of their own students on campus actually have fled socialist countries. For example, one of our reporters at Campus Reform, Eric Suarez, he fled Venezuela after living under seeing the dangers and seeing the destruction caused by socialist policies. Mm-hmm. So these universities are not considering these viewpoints when they're putting displays up commemorating these violent figures. They're not taking into consideration students that actually lived under those policies and saw how dangerous they are.
Fair point, but I'm curious then, is there potentially an opportunity here to have some real conversations, some substantive conversations, on these campuses to not only educate the administration, but maybe educate the student body as a whole?
Well, absolutely. And that's what colleges, I believe, are failing at. They're failing at teaching students critical thinking. They're teaching one perspective. They're teaching the leftist perspective, and they're not providing a space for Republican students or conservative students to bring up their perspectives. Yes, I think this is something that needs to radically change on college campuses, and pro-freedom voices and, every voice should be celebrated on a college campus because that's what teaches students critical thinking skills that they're one day going to take into the workforce once they graduate.
Emily, we're talking about Syracuse University here, but you go to the University of Florida. I'm going to give your Gators a little bit of love. So if this were a situation on your campus, how do you go about dealing with this?
Well, this was a situation on my campus. My school, the University of Florida, named a study room after Karl Marx. We reported that at the Leadership Institute's Campus Reform, and we've also reported that at other campuses across the country. New York University threw a 2-week-long birthday bash for Karl Marx, and the University of California, San Diego actually opened a cafe on campus called the Che Cafe, named after Che Guevara. So we've seen plenty of initiatives on campuses across the country where university administrations are leading students to have a favorable view of Marxism through, these things that they're naming on campus after violent communist murderers.
Emily Sturge, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for being here with us. Go Gators.
Go Gators. Thank you so much, Terrence, for having me.
No problem.